Today is a very informal meeting. Nonetheless, it's important as the city proceeds to honor the terms and conditions of the grant for this project. We have a grant from Miami-Dade County and obviously money that the city is putting from the half-cent penny tax to complete the effort. Without further notice, I'd like to bring up our mayor so she can greet you all. Madam Mayor Rhonda Rodriguez, our new mayor.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. I know it's homework time, bath time, dinner time, so we appreciate your taking your time to be here with us. We realize traffic is a huge problem, big concern. So this is a long time coming. We've had residents that have been looking for this for quite some time now. The reason we're not up here officially is because we're not holding the meeting. Our city engineer and the gentleman from the county is who will be actually holding the meeting for you, give you information that you need. So I'd like to also introduce my colleagues that are here. Commissioner Candida Blanca. Former Mayor Mujina had to step down for personal and professional reasons, but he left me some very big shoes to fill, so I hope to do those shoes justice. My number's available. I believe you were given a handout. My number's there, my email's there. Both numbers are there, so whatever you need, please don't hesitate to call me, call City Hall. I will be knocking on all doors very soon. It might take me some time to knock on all of them, but I will be knocking on doors soon to talk personally about concerns or whatever you have. Whatever you need to tell me, I want to hear it. So with that said, I will turn it over to our engineer, Frank Alonso, and I'm sorry, this one? Vikas, yes. From staff, before you start, we have Juan Pena, our Director of Public Works, and Jose Quintana, he's our IT professional. He's a jack of all trades and master of all. Quintana, thank you. He is recording this meeting for the purpose of keeping a record for the city. If everybody has signed the sign-up list, I'll get it from you before Frank Alonso starts and Vicar with the presentation. They were retained by the City of West Miami officially by vote of the City Commission to see this project through. We have 6 months to complete the project. So they're going to present you with an overview. Thank you for your time and your participation.
All right, good afternoon, folks. I'm Frank Alonso. As Yolanda said, I represent DYN International. We're an engineering consulting firm and a city engineer. We've been a city engineer now for almost 20 years. I personally have worked on projects here in the city for the entirety of my career, which is 17 years. So I consider myself a West Miami resident. I'm not just some consultant coming from the outside telling you guys what needs to be done. I have a vested interest in what happens here. I'm also a building official for the city. So I want you guys to have, feel comfortable in telling me whatever you need to tell me, and I understand because I've been working here in the city for a very long time. Just in general, I'm going to give you guys an overview of what we're going to do today. We're going to go through just a short presentation to kind of talk about a little bit of the background and history of traffic in the city and what has been done over the last 20 years. We'll talk about the previous study that was done, the results that came out of that, the projects that came out of that, which you've all seen, all the traffic circles that have been built throughout the years, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's going to happen going forward. If you could hold questions to the end, what I'd like to do, since there's a lot of you, this is great, but there's not that many of you, I'd like to kind of, just go around the room after and everyone kind of tell me, you're all here for a reason, you're all here because you're concerned about traffic, so I'm sure you all have a story, so I want all of you to have a moment to, say what the issues are affecting you personally. We'll bring the map up here, you guys can write all over that map if you want, and so we want to really get your feedback and see what the problems are at the ground level, so that when we go through the study, we can look at all those issues. So with that said, let's start here real quick. All right, so a little background. The original traffic study that the city did was done actually in 2004, so it's been what, 15 years?
15 years.
Since the last study was done, which is pretty good timing. Cities usually update their master plans every 10, 15 years as traffic patterns change throughout the city. At that time, just a lot like today, the focus of that study was to look at cut-through traffic, speeding drivers through some of the main thoroughfares of the city. And when that traffic was completed, they basically developed a citywide master plan for traffic calming. So at that time, it was seen we had a lot of cut-through traffic, like we still do today, but there was a lot of people speeding. So the best solution for that was to calm the traffic, and a big plan of installing traffic circles throughout the city was prepared at that time. Folks arriving, if you like, there's a sign sheet floating around. So that, with that master plan in hand back in 2004, the city went to work finding grant monies over the years, and we were very successful in getting grants throughout the years to basically build out the entire master plan. So here we are 15 years later, and we've essentially implemented everything that was in that master plan, all the traffic circles, a few other type of traffic calming devices, speed humps we put in a couple places, and some channeling separators that we've done in a few spots throughout the city. But that has all been implemented over the last 10 years or so through grants. So where are we today? Well, we all live in Miami. We all know what's happened over the last 10 to 15 years. We've had a major increase in population in the city, 19% over the last 7 years only. So obviously, with all this additional population that we have here, we have additional traffic. It's just a symptom of living in a big city. Not much we can do about that. There's also been significant commercial and development in this city as well as the rest of the county, but particularly in this city, you guys have had a lot of multifamily that we didn't have 10 years ago, a lot of new commercial businesses around. So there's been a major change in the makeup of the city. We have another, obviously looking forward, there's more growth projected. So this is the perfect time to do this study, and look back and look forward at the same time. So this is kind of just a vision statement that we like to do when we start any kind of traffic study. Enhance the quality of life by improving transportation safety, mobility, and accessibility for all residents of the city of West Miami. What does that mean? It's a bunch of words. Well, I mean, we want to have a network of roads here that is good for not just the cars that are coming through the city, but for the pedestrians, for the folks walking your dogs, taking your kids out, so that it's a safe neighborhood for everybody. In general, the goals of the project, number one, we're going to look at, we're going to do data collection throughout the city, and we want to look at the effectiveness of what's been done over the last 10 years. The traffic circles that have been put in throughout the city, we want to see if they actually did what they were supposed to do as part of our original master plan. Number two, we're going to identify where we have issues, where there are traffic flow issues, where you have speeding, where you have cut-through traffic, and that's why we're here today. We want your input because we're going to now embark on a data collection phase of this project, so we need to know where the areas to target, and we want your feedback on that so that we can target those locations and make it a scientific study, not just there's cars going through here. No, we want to make sure that we're getting the data and proving that there's an issue. And finally, we're going to develop a comprehensive traffic calming plan for the city going forward. So it's basically the plan for the next 10 years. What do we want to do in the city to improve traffic flow and address the issues? As Yolanda mentioned, we have about a 6-month schedule to finish the work for the county. So it's a really tight window. Luckily enough, we got all our approvals just in time before the end of the year, so we're able to get our data collection done now while school is still in session, so we can get some accurate numbers. If you do it over the summer, it's not the same thing. So we want to start data collection as soon as possible, and move on to the next phase, which is analyzing that data, making recommendations and documenting it, and preparing a master plan going forward. So that's what we hope to accomplish over the next 6 months. At the end of that process, we will have another public workshop like this to just present our findings and present represent our master plan going forward. We'll get your feedback once again and address any kind of pending issues that are still in there. So that's the plan. So next steps, like I said, step one, getting the public input. Next step, we'll move forward in the data collection, do the analysis, identify the traffic calming measures, and then prepare a final report with our findings and master plan go forward. This is my contact information. I'll leave that up there, so in case we don't get to you today, or there's something else you want to add, you want to send me pictures, a video, cards, anything you want to send us. The more information we have, the better. There's never too much data, so as much as you guys can provide with us, it'll help us do a better study. So with that said, I'll leave this up here. With that said, like Yolanda said, we want to keep this kind of informal. We'll bring up the map and we'll kind of go around the room. And I'd like to hear from all of you if possible. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. You can send me an email. But I would like to hear from all of you. We'll take notes, and that'll be kind of the focus of the rest of today. So. Before we get, let's do something. Before we get into that, are there any questions about anything that I said up there? Maybe going backward, looking at the previous study, anything like that? Any general questions? Yes.
So what does data collection actually entail in terms of how you collect the bits of data?
Yeah. You want to address that?
Sure. So we'll collect 24-hour traffic counts, which is basically volume of vehicles. And what you do is you put a tube out there, and depending on how many axles and records, there's a box there. That's the mechanics of how it's collected. So and it also collects speed of vehicles. And we're going to place it as first role. And Frank, you mentioned the effectiveness of these traffic circles, so they'll be placed so that we can figure out like before and after. The study that was done back in 2004 identified these locations which were ripe for putting in traffic circles. So we'll go back and say put a tube right here, and collect that data and compare the speeds before and after. So that's the speed and volume study.
For automobiles only? Will that
For automobiles only. Yes. And then there's another part is collecting TMC data, which is turning movement count. So at the periphery of the city, the signalized intersections, we are going to collect all vehicles, head, bike, and then we classify vehicles into autos and heavy vehicles. And so we look at that as well, what's happening outside.
I had a question and a follow-up to that one too.
Yep.
I missed the initial presentation from Yolanda, but the scope that you're covering is just an update for 15 years, or is it specific to a certain amount of comments and whatnot from the residents? I mean, what came about for the need to do? Because there was a big investment that was done.
Yeah. I mean, it's a new study. I mean, really, for all intents and it's not an update. It is a new study. But as part of that, since we did implement all these traffic calming measures, I mean, you can see how many were implemented throughout the city. We want to. Part of the study is to measure, the efficiency of what was built, and then look forward at what's the efficiency.
It's not based on complaints, though, or issues that we've had before.
It's
based on your proposal. That's why I asked.
It's not. I mean, it really the intent. We need to do a study. It's been 15 years. City. We basically implemented all the recommendations in the first study. So now it's time to look forward again. But yes, as part of that, we do want the input because it's just going to make it better.
And you had said that it was just traffic inside, and then the perimeter was PED and everything else. So,
PED,
any reason not to do PED inside the city, especially the school?
It can be done, absolutely. I mean, there are tubes that are sensitive to bicycles and even pets, and that can be done. I have to go back and look at our scope. But if there are areas, especially around the school or recreational center or something like that, we can absolutely do that. And that's why we have, that's why we want your input. Now, on top of this auto data and pedestrians and bicyclists, we are also going to look at crash dates. So that's crash dates and accidents, and that's a big component of safety and, kind of goes hand in hand with speed. So we are going to look at about 3 years of data, 3 to 5 years, and see how the crash rate before the traffic circles were went in, what was the rate then, and what is it now. So that's all.
Yeah. I just want to register a couple comments because I can't say that long. So one is that I think people don't always understand traffic circles. Because my observations is that people coming on the left, turn, maybe some signage to instruct people would be useful.
Okay.
The second thing is that I think we should consider cutting off certain streets that are used as cut-throughs between the avenues. I think the Gables, slow streets are valuable streets. Fast streets hurt property values. So for instance, I live on 10th Terrace, I would love to see the end of my street cut off from traffic, let people go up 65th, but not whiz down my street as a way to get to 67th Avenue. And then it's the third thing that can improve safety is better nighttime lighting. You walk around West Miami at night, it's very poorly lit. So that's something to consider. Yeah, now that, yes, go ahead. Or do you guys want to start kind of just, if we want to get into your issues, we can start going on with it. Is this a general question?
No, about 3 months ago, this had come up and a couple of neighbors came on 65th and 18th.
Yep.
And Metro Dade came and started to do the traffic check. And then they couldn't because it was during school time or what they say, so they wouldn't come back, but.
And also, the major thing, when we met in the Reyes Sosa's office with the county engineer, and she said that a proper study couldn't be done because of the closure of 63rd Avenue on A Street, where they're building that building. So that was going to be my question. Is that going to affect you?
It's going to have a localized effect on our data for sure in that little spot, but at this point we feel it's really localized there. So we don't really feel it's going to have a major impact on the findings.
Because that was the main reason they didn't proceed with the study until.
Yeah, I mean, if it was, those planning of the city or something, yes, it would be good. But it's on the periphery, and I think we can, and we do have data there, historical data, so we need to project. I don't think it's going to affect the overall.
Sorry, I have one more data point. Is it 24-hour period that is used with those tubes, so then you wouldn't capture, for example, a weekday, so the timing of these, installing these, how does that?
Yeah, how long we?
It's 24 hours, typically you do it on a weekday.
Yeah, we're looking for peak numbers really, so, and then we project.
On a weekday, peak hours, you're saying.
But it would run 24 hours a day.
Yes. And to address, closing the street, it's our dream to close all the streets and kind of have our city. Yes, Coral Gables did that. Other cities have done that in the past. It's just not allowed anymore. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that whole closure prompted a lot of conflict between cities and the county, and eventually we're just not allowed to do that anymore. Now, there is another thing that's called access management, which we'll look at, which is, if you've noticed, I don't know if you've seen, like on the June, they put in certain medians in certain strategic places, and that's to avoid people turning left, so that stops people from cutting through that street and turning left. So we'll look at access management along London as an option. I don't have much hope for it because it is a county road, and we have to, we really have to convince the county of that. But it's definitely something we're going to look at because, ultimately, to stop cut-through traffic, you have to limit access. Right? So really, we can't really stop people from coming into the city, but we can make it so that it's safe when they come to the city. That's
Frank,
really the intent.
If I may, access management, and you talked about the 67th Avenue corridor,
Yes.
is that, would be considered the median improvements and
Right,
and
if a median were to
landscaping?
put in, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
if we-
has a calming effect on traffic from what I hear. But again,
Well,
that's.
for our intent as the city for
Right.
itself, the purpose of the median would be to limit cars from turning left.
I see.
So,
I see.
for example, I cut through the city of West Miami. I'm a cut through guy. I work in Coral Gables, I live in Canada. But,
And
catch because I understand what's happening. So, for example, my route, I take 20th Street, right? I don't speed and I stop. But I do it because I can turn left on 67. So imagine if there was a meeting there, I couldn't turn left, I just wouldn't do it. It wouldn't make any sense. So I stop back on.
Probably go on 18th Street, which is nice.
Well, yeah, but you know, you have to do that along the corridor. So that's, I mean, look, I don't think that's something that's actually going to come out of this as a real project because it is a county road and there's such a, it will be difficult to get the county to do that. But it's something that we have talked to the county about.
Yes, we have.
And you know, we'll look at it and see what impacts it has to the mall.
Could we, and this all sounds great, I've been a resident for 12, going on 12 years now. I am affected by one of the turnarounds, they don't stop. They just don't. And I sometimes get myself caught saying, is it a yield or is it a stop? And I've been on the same road for 11 years. The county, we all know the county's a county, the study's great. We'll have a good 6 weeks of school traffic. We have 3 schools in my area, and that's where it's really bad. I'm a cut through Gables guy, but I don't cut all the way through. I just cut, I hit on Prado, and then I go into A Street just enough to get the light on 57. Are we going to include items that the city can help with without the county's involvement? Like more police officers stationed and ticketing people?
Well, you know,
That's going to have the
I can't remember
deterrence.
because people, I almost got run over several times, they're running stop signs. They
Oh,
don't
yeah,
respect-
they're
they
running
don't
stop
respect
signs,
the
they're running yield signs,
pedestrian.
they're on their phones. I mean, I'm home with my kids in the front yard and telling people to slow down and they get offended.
Yep.
So it's a, you know, it's 15 years
Yeah.
study, that's great. In 15 years, a lot has happened. A lot more people have
Population.
The population has increased. I mean, what can we do besides getting the county involved from the city standpoint? I know that we do a good job during school hours of the speeders on 59th, on 16th, but can we expand that? And I don't know if any of the city officials can answer that. That's the first part. And then the second part, you know, you mentioned the 15-year study. The study's going to be about what you said, 4 months? 6 months. So we'll get into this traffic study from the schools as an aspect of it. But realistically, what's the county's commitment after this study's done? Because it's great, build more turnarounds, awesome. It makes the city nice. You know, the trees, the palm trees, more lighting, that's great. But at the end of the day, let's just, what are we really going to be able to do?
yeah, I mean, what the study does at the end, and this is what it did in 2004, is that it gives us a vehicle to then go get more grants and go build this.
And go build this up
You
for
know,
grants.
so without a study, you can't take that next step.
No, I know what the study does, right. But I mean, there's items, and Yolanda, if I may interject a second here, is there more police presence that we can have? I know it costs a lot of money to have more officers on the road.
Right, and that's a budget issue we're looking at now, and I know that's been a big issue for the mayor and city commissioners. We are trying to use the existing manpower, which has been augmented
Right.
over the last 2 or 3 years. We've actually hired part-time police officers, reserve officers, so that we can go ahead and augment the force. But the problem is that every time you address something, you have a setback.
Of course.
The setback that we had is one of the officers that was doing road patrol to mitigate the traffic as well in the mornings is now assigned to the school. Why? Because of the Parkland and similar cases like that. The city has had to cooperate with Miami-Dade County Public Schools and allocate the proper bodies that we need at the school to preserve the safety of the kids.
Sure.
And once you have a pool of maybe 25 officers in a small municipality like this that consists of your brass down to the part-timers, law enforcement officers, these guys work a schedule. And so putting additional officers on the road, just so you can get an example of what the cost is. Putting a startup officer on the road with a marked unit and all the equipment that he or she may take has a cost of $100,000 a year. That's at a starting salary. So you're talking about a police department that currently is probably taking, I want to say about 55% of your budget is dedicated to police services. So it's a major undertaking. Obviously, the city is better in the general fund, doing better because we've had development, but there are other funds that need some help now. So it's not that we manage in crisis, but most cities have challenges.
No, I totally
And
understand
so,
that.
you know, where do we draw the line as to the personnel that Mr. Penna needs to go out and collect garbage and trim trees and clean drains? We cannot put all of our eggs in one basket, meaning for police officers. So we need to make a concentrated effort to address manpower as critically needed in the various
Sure, no,
departments.
and I understand that.
So-
And the last, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and to your point, I have seen a spike in revenues received from the clerk of the court on traffic citations issued.
Right.
We have gone from $2,600 a month that we receive in revenue from the clerk of the court where people pay their tickets. We've seen a spike where we're getting $5,000 or $6,000 a month. So police officers are doing their job, you know, they're definitely, if you request a copy of the statistics, you have one officer. As a matter of fact, on Saturday, we had a picnic for the awards for the police officers. We have any given officer during a 1-year period of time will issue 500 to 600 citations during his or her shift. So we're doing the best we can. We cannot put an officer out in every
No, of course.
sector of the city
Like
because
the
it's,
gentleman that wants his street closed, hey, close my street too.
well, close mine too, but the county will not allow it.
No, I understand. No,
And anything, just so you know, anything that occurs in our streets has, in terms of traffic and/or traffic maintenance, pursuant to the new interlocal agreement that we were told we needed to sign by Miami-Dade County Public Works, must be approved by the county. Signage, traffic maintenance, roadway improvements, anything, whatever the traffic study reveals and the recommendations that come from there, even if we were to address it tomorrow, they must be approved by Miami-Dade County. And I know Mr. Camejo is here with Miami-Dade County, so welcome, and I know that we're speaking the same language here.
And the last part was, you know, other deterrents like they've done in Fort Davis where they reduced the speed limit. Not that it's gonna make someone slow down, but instead of going, 40 on a 30, maybe they go 30 on a 20. There's a big difference in speed in that. So I don't know if that's something that we can
Yes,
address in the study.
I think that is something we're going to look at, is lowering the citywide speed limit. Yeah, sure. I mean, that gives you more opportunity for enforcement.
So, one area of concern is on 10th Street between 57th and 58th. I've been there for 14 years now, and I've seen the traffic volume increase significantly, both twofold, just general population increase and also the multifamily building. On 10th Street is the drop-off, if you will. It's not the ingress of tenants. And just between cab drivers, Uber drivers, coming down the street, they have no respect for no speed limit. We have recently, pets run over on the street. It's really a problem, and I would implore you to really look at that area there. Not only the cut through, but just in general, people coming out of that building aren't respecting. They're turning in our driveways to make turnarounds. It's become a bigger problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And the hope is that we can capture some of that in the data and see those volume pockets where we have those big volumes.
And obviously, enforcement is, I agree 100%, but even, traffic speed humps, I would not mind slowing down, going home every day if I had to go over
Not
speed
allowed.
hump, ensuring, not allowed.
Why is it
Why are they not, I don't understand why they're not allowed, they're all over Dade County. They're all over Dade County, I don't understand why they're not allowed in West Miami. Humps, they're all over Dade County. They're,
Because it got built years ago.
They're allowed, but we have to.
they're allowed.
I have my own, I have pictures. Yeah, of my school.
I know where, I was still, they're right here. They're right off my court, they're right here. I'm 30.
We are, I'm representing the Forgotten Quarter, as many of you know. This corner of West Miami gets the least attention of any spot in the whole city. I don't know why, but, and, we have, not now, for years, at least the past 20 years, neighbors on 22nd Street between 65th and 67th have been trying to get speed bumps. And we were never able to do that. Now they tell us it's not allowed. Well, we've been trying for 22 years. We need something done because 22nd Street, people going westbound, commuting traffic in the afternoon, and in the morning too, but it's worse in the afternoon. We get people that get off of 408, they come down to 67th, then they go right and left, keep going on 22nd Street all the way to the end. And then when they get to West Miami Middle School, then they get off all the way again. You would be surprised that I'm sure that if you put the gun on them, they will do 40, 44, 45 miles on that little stretch of street. We need something done. If it's not a speed bump, we need something on the road, something to make them realize, hey, there's people living here, there's children living here. And this has been my husband and my battle for the past 20 years. And we get nothing done, nothing. 23rd Street, when they built the CVS, all of a sudden they got a speed bump. And we have more traffic than that street because in that street you can't cut the road. And this is my big concern. That street, one day there's going to be a very bad major accident. We have a situation now with the construction of the building, but that I understand, it's temporary. Where last week I had to call the police because people coming in wrong way on a one-way, and they totally just stood there, they got down, they confronted each other, we started fighting. And when the street is open, it's going to be the same situation that we had before the building. It's a whole window of the building. It's been there all along.
All right, so I think we're getting into some of the specific issues, Friday, so why don't we start kind of going around the room and I think
Yes, I live on N Street between 59 and 60. And it is a total nightmare there. Total nightmare. It is not a through street. It has a little alleyway on the side of my house. And sometimes I look at 7 o'clock in the morning and there are 5 or 6 cars in front of my house trying to make a left turn onto the alleyway. I would like to know what can be done about traffic from people who do not even live in West Miami. They come on 59th Avenue, they run over the circle, they get on my street going 50 miles an hour to get to the corner. There is no place for them to go. They have to go on the side of my house. All of this at 50 miles an hour on the phone. And then to get to 11th Street, to have to do the same thing again. I am sick and tired of it. I do not want 18-wheelers on my block. I do not want school buses on my block. And I don't want people who do not live remotely close to West Miami going at 50 miles on my block, which is not even a through street. I am tired of that. I mean, one day I was almost run over on the side of my yard because from 11th to 10th, it is do not enter. It's a nuisance on the side of the block, of the road. They come this way, they come this way, they have a big foo there. This man was pissed off at the woman who would not back off. He drove on my yard, almost hit my mailbox, and almost hit my car. What are you going to do about that?
That's really
We need a bill for a wall.
Chief, we can't, like I said earlier, we can't stop people from coming in the city.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
What we can do is just make it as safe as possible. I know exactly where you live, and I know what you're talking about, and that is kind of a funky intersection
That is a
there.
problem.
Yeah,
It's not funky, it's a problem. People walk their pets, people have walking their grandchildren, people walk on that street and you're not safe. This starts at 6:30 in the morning.
Okay, so during our meetings that we had, our group with the city of Miami, we spoke about speed bumps or bumps or however you want to call
There
it.
is no need for
Then we
me
met with
to be driving
Commissioner
in front of
Sosa
my house.
and the county engineer, and we also talked about that.
I've been more
And they said that there was a possibility that speed bumps could be a possibility. So I think, in my very humble opinion, I'm not an engineer or anything like that, you know, but speed humps really do help. I mean, I see them all over the place. The one that she's talking about behind
The
CVS. And it's not even a huge speed hump, it's just a little, but it's still turning down that street. Why can't we have those, a few of those
No,
scattered around the
I'm
city?
not saying we can't.
My street, 18th Street, people come from 62nd, it's a through street from 62nd to 67.
Right.
Okay? And yeah, it does have 3 of those things, and the one in my corner of 64 and 18 even has stop signs. But they don't, they don't respect them.
You live on the corner?
No, I don't live on the corner, I live the next house over from the corner.
Is it true that they say that the speed bumps cause damage to the speeding car?
You can use speed bumps. The issue with the speed bumps is to warn them, you have to have proof that there's a speed issue. So you have to be able to show there's cars speeding.
I have proof. I have proof. I live on, Mr. Whiteman is my neighbor across the street. We live on 6337 Southwest 16th Street.
Oh, forget it.
Yeah, forget it. Nobody here knows, and I understand everybody's complaints. Everybody has speeding.
I welcome 40 miles an hour.
But 50 miles an hour is an average speed on my street. My cat got killed last year, which is an animal. You can understand. It's no big deal. But still,
It's not an animal.
we had a drunk driver plow into our house from his lawn all the way across the street to my lawn. Miss our cars by, I'm talking about not in a swell, in our property.
Destroy the property because the tree.
I just don't understand why. We've asked for the simple stop sign on 63rd. From 62nd Avenue all the way to 64th, that's a speed, it's a drag strip. People go on that street now, forget about the traffic at between 5 to 7 o'clock. Okay, I understand everybody cuts through there. And actually, I'm actually happy at that time because people are slow. People are crawling. So I can actually cross the street to see my neighbor. But between those other times, I can't cross the street. And what's really, if you guys really don't know, on 63rd, we have our neighbor. She's about 8 years old. For her to cross the street to Commissioner Sosa's park, that's right across the street, as everybody knows, she can't cross that street at 5 o'clock, or let's say 3 o'clock to go play tennis, because everybody's speeding down 16th from 62nd to 64th. There was a deadly accident over there about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, as people probably know here that have been around. I've been living here for 18 years on 16th.
46.
So the average speed there is about 50 miles an hour. And the studies during the week, but on the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays, people are flying through there. I think that's one of obviously I live on 16th, but also my mom lives right here on 9th Street. The biggest concern now, and that's not traffic related, is all the construction that's going on. And you know more than anybody, all the dust and everything that's happening, all the cars getting full of dust, and all the garbage that's been thrown around, because everybody that's been working on 9th Street there. I don't know about you, but I'm sure you got trash all over the place. But that's not the concern right now. I'm going on a tangent, but Mr. Whiteman can also.
I just want to second what you said, just to be on the record. I just think it's absolutely Chris, in 2019, that neighbors have to go out and help children cross the road to get to the park. I mean,
Correct.
something has to give. There's a certain amount of police officers. Sometimes, you know, you see them congregating by the park, this and that. There has to be a way for children to get from the north side of West Miami to the south side. I don't have kids, and I see them go outside and I help them cross the street. I mean, it's just getting a little crazy on 16th Street.
Maybe a light with crosswalks, so where we can press a button and have it say something.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I won't let my kids or my grandchildren cross any streets these days. They're crazy people out there.
Let me just bring quickly, what he said about the animals, in our street, we've had in the past year 3 animals were killed, and in her street, which is around the corner, her dog was killed. So, you know, it's a problem everywhere.
Yeah, you said that 60.
I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Okay.
So no, just so you're not there raising your hand.
Okay, which one do you want to hear? 67, you said it is a county road, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, do we have any say on the east side of that road, the one closer to the south? No, okay. But one of the issues that I've noticed is that people, as they approach the building, the one that had just finished, they stop and let people out.
Well,
And they completely stop, and then people are crossing Coral Way, and they're about to bump into somebody, and it's gonna be a tragic accident there. That, I mean, you know, I was just wondering if there's anything that the county can do, a sign or something, because they're letting people in and out, and
I know.
if you're not aware of that this can happen, you're gonna end up hitting somebody, and it'll be a fatality somehow. Well, I mean, it's just people letting off people on that building, I don't know what's going on there.
Who
In
can we
and
go
out.
to with our concern
Well,
about?
that's what I was gonna say. You guys are city residents. Unfortunately, we don't have jurisdiction on the road, but yeah, you can petition the county.
But can't the people that are renting that place, that management, give them something in their paperwork that says, if you're gonna be dropped up and picked up, it has to be at this location or on the board, that location, not on the main thing. In the contract, when they sign a lease, there should be something in writing that states, you can only be picked up around the corner, or there's a lot of areas.
There's trucks, there's Ubers, there's everything. You're going on 62nd Avenue and all of a sudden there's a car park. On 67th Avenue. Pagando.
Right.
They don't have something in the lease that says that.
Shoot, that's what
I think
And now there's gonna be another building, so we're gonna get more of them.
No, but it's fine. I get you guys were building on the issue. I wanted to let them go.
No. My concern is the construction. The study is not going to take into account the increased traffic with the 63rd Avenue building.
Well, okay,
So that's going to affect us, like this gentleman with the Ubers and the people speeding in and out and the animals and all the rest. How are you going to take it into account? The building's not finished while the study's going to be done.
when you do the study, you gotta kind of pick a point. So this is where we are. This is the moment that we have to do it. Unfortunately, yeah, we have an ongoing construction. We're not going to be able to capture that, but we are capturing the 5 other developments.
Are you going to contemplate all the individual traffic studies that became part of the special use permit for planned development for these new buildings? Because those projects were accompanied by a traffic study. And my question is, will they be using the data collected from that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Formulate
As
your
the city, we've taken in those traffic studies when those projects were planned, so we have all that data and we will use that. But keep in mind also that inherent in the data that we collect, will be the impact of those
And they couldn't close
developments.
off 63rd Avenue, let them go out in and out of 8th.
The county did not allow the developer to close,
I thought it was just Rebecca Sosa.
I'm sorry?
I thought it was only Rebecca Sosa.
Rebecca Sosa is an individual, she's a commissioner of the county, but the county has rules that even she has to abide by.
Oh, I thought she was the one who pushed for it and not she was.
Oh, I don't know. All I know is that there was an application application for a street closure, because that was part of the permit application. And then the project, the developers asked for the street closure, and the county advised them.
They do whatever they want. They said that Rebecca's
Okay, in some relation to what the manager is saying, the new buildings that are going up right here are an immediate concern to us who are residents on that corner right now, who have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in our property. Our concern, as much as we love the buildings going up, is the traffic coming out of the building that it should be filtered to 8th Street and not down 63rd Avenue. Secondly, although you have parking, lots of parking in these buildings, it won't stop people who are visiting those buildings not to want to park in those buildings, instead park in front of our homes where we don't want that neither. So the point, I think, is really to divert traffic. Now, when you're coming out, there are arrows saying one way, which is going to 8th Street and not into the city of West Miami. I don't know, we just got here late. I don't know if that's something that you can listen to and observe and maybe do. So,
yeah, I mean, one-way conversions are kind of very similar to closing road. It's very difficult to get that permitted by the county.
because we did want the road closure, but we got shut down on that. So the bottom line is, this would be the next best thing.
Yeah, understood. It is a different process. I mean, we will see that data, but it is a different process. That's not something that we have control over. We do have to go to the county to petition for that,
Right.
for a one-way conversion.
Right.
So, just in general, so you guys all have an understanding, you know, we have any type of traffic pattern change that we propose within a city. You know, we want to convert a street to one-way, close a road, put in a traffic cone. All those affect traffic in the county as a whole. And that's why we can't do that without the county. So we have an agreement with the county. The only thing that we are allowed to do is to put in, let me rephrase that. The only thing that we're allowed to do without their permission is to put in traffic circles. Why? Because it doesn't inhibit traffic, it calms traffic.
Are they changing out, are they changing them out the stop signs? I saw they started doing that on some of them. On some of them, the swells are stop signs now. They don't stop. They don't stop.
We got it.
And it's confusing.
So I just wanted, just to back up a second, I just want you all to have that understanding, because, you know, we're limited on what we can do as a city without truly affecting traffic flow in the county. Anything like that, like a one-way conversion, we do have to go to the county and get that.
So I have a couple of comments and then something specific, but one of them is it possible to put in, like, in some of the places you see a sign that says, no turn in this particular direction during some time frame. So is that something that you could do at least during the times when the traffic is terrible, to prevent people from going those ways? Do we need the county's permission to do something like that?
Yes.
For that you do.
Any traffic signalization, any roadway issues, any street closure, bumps, with the exception of our typical traffic calmer, is the only thing we really have jurisdiction over. That's
It's the only
correct?
thing that we can do without their explicit permission.
Exactly.
Everything else, we do need to
We
submit,
have
and
to.
which is not to say that it's impossible, it's just we have to go through a set.
And so, I know some other places, so like the city of Morningside or little community of Morningside, they have a guard. I mean, the guard doesn't do anything except stand there and take license plates.
Yeah, but they have.
But
Really, we have so many entrances.
But for some, if you have like a place that is, that from the study comes out as very problematic, that could be something that is not requiring a police officer, but just have somebody that is kind of monitoring flow. So that was, the third thing is, in terms of like thinking about, I've been a resident for now like 15 years, you know, one of the problems is that the walkability and or alternative forms of transportation. You know, for example, I live off of 13th Street and 57th Avenue. And there is a gas station right on the corner, so a mobile gas station. Now we have the Publix, and again, people use my street to cut through. A little further up there is Sylvania, sort of feeds into 57th Avenue. There's really no, my kids would be able to bike to school if I felt that it was safe for them to cross the street, which is, it's just not. It's not a safe environment. So having, like they said, some signals, crosswalks that are pushable where people can stop the traffic and help people cross would be really a very useful thing that could also help traffic. Another thing is having a defined barrier where the pedestrians are walking, because I don't let my children walk along 57th Avenue, and my kids are older, because I don't walk along it, because it's dangerous. Cars will go around since there is not a solid median on the road. They go over the grass. If you look at the Publix, I don't know how many times they put in grass to go around the space, which is dangerous, because if a car loses control, they will inadvertently.
But I have to tell you, 57th Avenue is a state road. And I gotta tell you that Commissioner Blanes has been trying to get that right-of-way area in front of Publix protected in some fashion, because the Publix is very aesthetically pleasing, and all of a sudden you see all that mud there in the corner because cars are just turning and bypassing other cars without properly stopping. So this has been something that, and we could show you emails from Juan's office, my office, Frank's office to FDOT, and FDOT has all the jurisdiction on that road. Am I correct?
57th Avenue is a historical road.
Yeah.
So being a historical road, there are certain things that you just can't do to it, like making curbs, putting curbs on the side. Also, there's a drainage issue that, you know, the water, when it rains, it needs to drain off the road, and it needs to have a certain flow into the drain, so the curving can affect it. So, you know, it's always one thing or the other, but you know, just about every issue here that's been mentioned, we've been dealing with and fighting with for a long time.
Don't pay attention to that sign that says, don't drive for me, there's no white car. I mean, I've seen it so many times that they're gonna, someone's gonna get them over the phone. There's a red light and they, but you can ride on.
Let me find out and says that you cannot make a right.
But it doesn't,
when it's red. Oh, 16, 57, or 27.
the 116 to 57, I've seen people, but the 57 to 16.
I'll say those are not bad.
I haven't seen it. See, it says, I probably get a ticket.
So you mentioned about pedestrians. The focus of this study will be on traffic. The scope's not going to cover, we'll look at periphery, kind of look at pedestrian connectivity, but it's not really the focus of the study. That will kind of be something different. But yeah, that is a valid concern, and I think that's something we can look to in the future, trying to get some grant money to do a study specific for pedestrian.
Well, we had a cross guard that was killed, right?
Many years ago.
16
And
62nd Avenue.
almost 20 years ago. The traffic was a lot less back then.
The county has a program called Safe Routes to School, and they put out a lot of grant work, a lot of grants to do these type of studies, to do the actual construction. So, you know, that's something that definitely we can work together to try to push. I think we've been so focused on the traffic issue, we really haven't thought as much as the pedestrian.
Frank, will you use, I'm sorry.
Hold on, I had two over here that were.
Lady in blue's there 3 times. Right there.
She's next.
Okay, there's multiple issues in different streets throughout the city, and I noticed that everybody has its own issues. Do you have a map of where you're planning to place your sensors?
Well, yes, we already put a lot of them, so you will see them practically throughout the entire city. But we do want to get the feedback. I mean, we do have a general idea that kind of the northeast quadrant and the southwest quadrant are not really a specific area that we're gonna put them in. But we will, there is kind of
Because
the
I
feedback
think
that
that
we're getting. yeah.
if we here would have that in place already, we would be able to
So
give
they're
you
gonna be everywhere. You're gonna see.
more feedback, I guess, or better feedback, what the effectiveness of your staff.
Yeah.
When you register the volume of traffic?
Yes, it's a you'll see them. It's a red box.
Sometimes when you go 57 and going to the gate, sometimes they have these big signs that says your tag is being, being recorded, being taken a picture. Is that a deterrent? Is that something that we could use, put it somewhere around?
I see it as a challenge usually. I try to see if I get the high score.
Those are called, if I may, those are called license plate readers. The city's negotiating a contract. Now we're gonna look at amending. The contract is something that hasn't even made it to the commission yet. Some cities are using it to help the police department as an additional enforcement tool to go after people that have committed crimes and that. But we are talking to the vendor to see if there's any way that we can place them, especially around the school area. It's extremely important. And I know for Mayor Rodriguez how important it is, the child safety issue by the schools. And so we're talking to the vendor now. We don't have anything in writing to present to the commission, but it will be addressed very soon. My question to you was, because we've spoken about police enforcement quite a bit as well, and are you going to be using the data supplied to you by the West Miami Police Department on accidents and traffic citations for the last how many years?
3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years. Have they are producing that data for you?
We're working with one to get them, so we'll be getting them.
Okay, all right.
Yes. First of all, I would like to thank the City of West Miami Police because I think you guys are awesome. And I've witnessed them right on 6039, standing there, and they tell me, watch, they see me, they see the car, and they're still going to fly right through. So, and they're not going to go chasing them because now it's a hazard. I think the key thing is to make it inconvenient for people to speed. At one point, we were looking at 25 miles an hour through the city. I don't know if that's still liable. But there was also the studies that generated the traffic calming device on 9th Street and 63rd. Also said there was supposed to be another traffic calming device a couple of blocks down. I think some residents shot it down. We need to make it inconvenient, right? The stop sign is in the traffic calming device is supposed to slow down. Some cities have a stop sign, some cities have a yield. I think it should be a yield because how we're causing emission. Cars are stopping right there, and then you're causing a traffic jam. That's not the purpose of it. The purpose is to slow down the traffic, slow it down, make it inconvenient for somebody cutting through. It makes it inconvenient for us as residents too. I'm okay. I want to go 10 miles an hour. I don't want to run over somebody, right? The police department, they're tasked with better things to do than to chase after somebody speeding. If we make it uncomfortable for somebody to drive to the city, the new building is 350 units. That's a person per unit, that's 350 cars. They're saying Uber, Uber's still a car on the road. So Uber's not the solution. Not everybody's going to take, the issue that we have here in the city is countywide, right? I mean, I work in public works. I work with my fellow neighbor here. So we know it's an issue countywide. We need to make it uncomfortable for people to speak.
No, it's very well said.
So, if there was another traffic calming device that the county already approved, why wasn't that then developed? I mean, as a citizen, you want to be able to encourage the slowing down of traffic. So maybe I encourage to look at that already, not have to wait for something else. Why was that one? They started, maybe Yolanda can elaborate. I remember they started in the circle, and then it was stopped because, I don't know.
The resident, there was one corner resident there who basically convinced the entire area, am I correct, Mr. Juan Pena, that the location for the traffic calming would be detrimental to that part of the neighborhood.
We're required to get.
Right. But I mean, it was started, so I mean, that thing is like there's one, and then there's like a clear runway all the way, and that would address your issue too, all the way through. So, you have people speeding in front of you guys. I I mean, Feldman used to stop there, officer, and say, look, I'm gonna stand here, and you're gonna see how many people are gonna go fly, and that's the officer there, out of the car.
There's no
looking.
respect for law
There's no
enforcement.
respect.
With the slide.
With the slide on it, so.
I think that you said it perfectly. I mean, that's really the intent. You know, you can't stop people from coming in, but you can
Make them comfortable
very
with just speak to it.
I also think, and to add to everything that has been said here, the Waze application, and I don't know how much in detail you can get into recognizing how it's being utilized by people that are using our city as a cut-through, like you, an offender. But I know, but how many, can we obtain data from Waze or from Google Maps to see how many drivers are cutting through our roads? Because I will guarantee you that that's gonna be probably one of the biggest concerns.
That will be evident in the data. We will without a doubt see a massive increase in volume from the 2003 study. And that's part of what we want to see. We want to see how much that volume increased and if the traffic calming devices are having a role.
And this is a question that I don't know if anybody has thought about, but I noticed that on those turnabouts, the ones that have curves, people must slow down if they're gonna go through. Will this study help in the design of
Well, the typical...
Because the first ones that we will put in have no curve.
Right, the typical design is with curves. For that purpose, it is to channelize. So the design that we are approved for by the county is the one fully built with the curve.
And the big enough.
And the big separator coming up.
In the middle.
Yeah.
If you put a little one.
It's kind of the separator here, that basically we kind of squeeze it down and then you have the curve around. That's what we're approved to build. If we take the curve out, you can't build it.
No, and the circle in the middle is too small. It's not gonna help you. You have to make it big enough so they do have to turn and then they have to turn and then they have to. It's a right, left, and right. They can't just go through. And I noticed that for the one that's closest to my house, it's the little one. He would just go right over. Yeah, and it doesn't have any sound. And they run right through. The design, I think, has to be improved.
May I ask, how much does one of these roundabouts cost? On an average?
What was the full price? Like,
With lights,
yeah, the price was
70,000.
70,000.
With lights.
With lights, they have lights.
And how much does a speed hump cost?
speed hump with all the, maybe like 10 grand with
Wow.
everything around.
You know how many speed humps we can get? We can get 7 speed humps for every turn. And I know that a speed hump will cause a lot more damage to a car than a turn hump.
I want to thank you guys for coming out here and doing this study. Again, 15 years, a lot of things have happened. And thank you for this young lady over here. Last week, she brought up the question, what is the study really going to be measuring? There's, as you can see, traffic is probably one of the top 3 issues that we have in the city. To your comment, that's the first thing that came to my mind, but I know how the government works. When you get the results in the city, how are you going to prioritize some of that data to what the concerns are? Because yes, I'd love a speed bump, a speed trap, and close my street. And I'll get it for because I want my kids to go to the front yard. I want to ride a bicycle. I can, and if I tell somebody to slow down, I'm afraid to, I'm going to get hurt. So, what is going forward after the study, and luckily we're going to catch some of that school traffic. What is the outcome of that, and how we can, what's a priority based either on the county or the study or the city on,
Yeah, I mean,
and obviously money.
Yeah, ultimately we'll have a plan recommending different measures in different places throughout the city in terms of prioritizing. We typically come up with
Typically, we come up with, different metrics, like in this case, right off the top of my head, I would say, safety, volume, speeds. So just based on which areas have the most issues, that's how typically you get to prioritize. And then associated is cost as well,
Right.
but that doesn't take priority.
Sure. And again, and thank you very much, and deterrents, bring down the speed limit,
Yeah.
parking of, a police car that doesn't turn on often in the corner, I know it doesn't work, but sometimes it does. And someone had mentioned lighting, is also something that can assist too. So I just wanted to thank you guys for coming out.
Yeah, there's certain things I think the reducing speed limit, there are some things like she mentioned of putting, no left turn sign, that type of thing. It's not gonna deter everybody, but it might deter some people.
You don't come down my street instead of that street.
I know some other cities have implemented those type of things, and they're not always effective. Once people realize that they're not being enforced, then it goes away, the effect kind of goes away after a while. But yeah, it's a combination of putting them and enforcing it often enough that people remember that.
Oh, and I'm sorry, before I leave, I thank the city, I want to thank the city officials for doing the parking situations thing there. I apologize to those residents that live along the streets, because now the cars that can't park there are going to park there. But that's another concern of kids running around, we walk sometimes out there. So enforcing the study more towards the parks and schools, not because I have kids, but just because those are the safety issues, I think, in my opinion. But thank you very much, appreciate it.
It may have been brought up already, but the infrastructure here in Miami is terrible, as we all know. There are millions of people moving into this city because that's where everybody wants to come. Being that we are in a very small community and we want to keep it as safe as possible, has road closures been brought up? Because I heard that the county did not want to do this anymore for certain areas, but I think it would help with the go-through traffic that people are trying to go from downtown to west or wherever the case is.
We did address that early on. I mean, that's obviously, that's the first thing that everybody wants, but
Oh, okay,
unfortunately,
sorry.
yeah, the county just won't allow that.
Really?
Really, the county, you have to, and I kind of alluded to it, you have to kind of look at the system of the county as a whole. So it's a big grid system. So the county is completely against now closing any street. We want to maintain flow in all the streets, but we're allowed to traffic calm. So that's really our only option to deter and to make it uncomfortable for cut-through traffic to get through.
They're taking that measure more than safety. I don't know.
In the study that we did before, it was 15 years ago, the expressways were free. Now you have to pay a toll.
Well, it's a different world than it was 15 years ago.
And that has reflected a lot on 8th Street, Way, Bird, every community traffic going west or east. They don't go on the expressway anymore because the prices, they can't afford it. And they go on this main street. Will that study will reflect any of that?
Well, so like I said, it will reflect it in the volume we collect. So we're going to see, I guarantee we're going to see some massive increases in volume compared to what we had in 2004. So in that number, in that data that we collect, inherently is that fact. Inherently is the development, it's the population growth. It's going to be reflected in the data. So it's not, we're not explicitly looking at that particular issue, but it will be.
Okay, and we're talking about traffic flow. This will have nothing to do with parks.
No.
On my way to work, 20th Street, between 63rd and 62nd Avenue, at 9:30, quarter to 10, I don't have to be able to 10. There was a Metro Dade car parked there, and I stopped to ask because it was about the time of the traffic study. Because we had already come to this, and we had already talked to Rebecca Sosa, we had been to her office. What I understood from the gentleman that was doing the traffic study that we don't have enough cars ongoing to that street. And 20th Street is a busy street, it's a cut-through street. And so my fear is that after the 6 months of, it doesn't matter what my fear, if we don't have enough people in our little town, because it's really one less than a mile, I mean, are we going to get granted, or is this going to be a waste of our time? Or how many cars does it take for us to get help from Metro Dade County? Because it seemed to me, 20th Street, half the side is Metro Dade County, half the side is West Miami. On 62nd Avenue and 20th Street, it goes crooked. And I can't tell you how many times I've almost gotten into an accident there.
Still
Second
different.
Avenue. It's Saturn.
No, the public works, and the gas is pretty permiso.
There's a lot, that's why you can't put a four-way stop there. It's Saturn.
Public works, that's public works.
But this is this is a tenant.
Between 62nd and 63rd. There's various families with children, and especially during peak hours, cars cut through our street because they don't want to wait for the red light to change on 16th. So this is on 15th Street between 62nd and 63rd. So you could take that into account. Great.
I think that's where we got one of the circles.
Do you know that somebody did a study already? I mean, there was a Metro Dade guy. I stopped around on 20. Yeah. That wasn't such a busy street, so is there a certain number of cars that we need to get a grant to get this going?
No se levanta, dice nada.
How many cars, you have to go through a full engineering warrant study to put a signal. But it's not necessarily like for traffic signals and those things, you don't need, that kind of.
We don't need to.
No, you
We
don't
just
need
need tax
warrant.
money.
You don't need warrants, you don't need a warrant to justify and put in a traffic signal. You can, you can traffic calming devices. There are certain, like for a four-way stop, a warrant is for. So you do,
That's
some of
what
those
goes
things,
back.
you have to comply with the guidance. And, you may not need the county's approval, depending on, what device it is. But if a warrant is required by MUTC, which is manual for uniform traffic control devices, that's, you have to, you cannot put it without.
A certain amount of people going down that road.
Depending on what improvement you're trying to put in.
Now, when you see I know what you're gonna do when you see those hoses.
The guy that you saw, he didn't have one of those hoses.
He was sitting there now.
I mean,
I have 3 buildings, 2 already existing and 1 that's coming up. 21st Street is actually closed off by one of those buildings. Right. Everyone, no matter if the street is closed, everyone goes through there, no matter what.
So
I have 65th and 21st. So there's a few blocks that that obviously don't have any runabouts or don't have any stop signs, and people use, just like the lady that's in front of you guys that was saying, that she's on 22nd and 65th. Everyone there likes to party there. So there are no stop signs to anyone there. I can walk around the neighborhood or walk around 2 blocks around that area with my 2-year-old, and it's impossible to even enjoy the area. Much for the same reason. Everyone cuts through there, just like the gentleman on that corner said, that they're running at 50 miles per hour. I mean, I've seen literally people that, that are constantly on road rage, arguing on 22nd, trying to overpass the other vehicle so that they can just cut through. And I'm constantly calling the police, and I'm very thankful as well, for their approach. But it's like, how much more time? I mean, something like everyone else is saying here, something's going to happen, someone's going to die, in that area, because people have a disregard for not only for the law, for the stop signs, but they live in a community that they just want to cut through, but that's all they want to do. And I see the people from the buildings, off of the 2 buildings that are there, run through my block. I have security cameras that I can show you where I have people that are coming from the building that I already know that they're from the building, cut through my street, avoid stopping any stop sign that's in front of them, and it's a constant battle. know, sometimes, you know, I tell my kids, no, you know what, we're not gonna worry about going out today. I have the signs that say, you know what, slow down, kids at play. Guess what they did to them? Somebody walking around the neighborhood picked it up and just threw it on another street.
Frankie, what street was that again? I missed.
65th and 21st.
Right behind
I'm right immediately, right in the corner where you have the two buildings and you have the third building that's coming up.
Where they put the dog park.
Yeah.
I see this one.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the issues that I have. I mean, I'm the closest to those three buildings. But really, speed is one of the biggest issues there. You know?
So one thing, I know that the scope of this study is really looking at the traffic, but in terms of maybe funding some of these projects, if it was looking at transportation, but all the different ways, pedestrian, bicycle, livability of the city, right, that includes the transportation and everything else, that could be something that would be very fundable, particularly with the number of, not just the children, but we have a lot of elderly that really perhaps shouldn't be driving, and if there were alternative, safe ways that they could move across and safe, they would be less likely to drive around. So in terms of, I mean, I know this is just a part of it, but it should be part of a whole comprehensive kind of strategy in terms of making the city a more livable city
No,
for
I
all
think
of
that
us.
kind of alluded to that, the city manager is, yeah, I think, you know, one phase is trying to calm the traffic, and then the next phase will be looking at pedestrian plan more focused on connectivity and making, you know, those safe crossings, that you guys see everywhere else.
But will those priorities be set based on just your study, or really looking at all of these bits and pieces?
Well,
Because
yeah,
that.
the pedestrian focus, like I said, is not gonna be really a part of this. But, you know, we'll look at it on the periphery, and we'll likely make recommendations for a next phase of looking at some kind of pedestrian study, connectivity study.
Especially because a lot of the high-density places are actually sort of near corridors that there are a lot of amenities that you perhaps could walk to if it were really safe and not have to drive. I mean, I personally live near the Publix. I would much rather walk to Publix than have to go, drive, park my car, and then go all the way around, which actually that's great, because otherwise people would turn, you know, so it's much easier to walk than it is to actually take my car. And so I think people would be more likely to do that.
But I would think that any measures taken to calm the traffic will help with pedestrians.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's like you said, it's part of the whole thing.
It's all like, you know, part of the whole thing.
Back to the traffic calming devices, the circle. If you perform the study and you deem that X number of traffic calming circles would have to be implemented, you still have to go, like what Yolanda said, to the four corner residents and get their approval. So now we're back to square one if one of the persons says no, right? Like we had down the road. So
Majority.
the majority. Well,
But
you know,
this
if you have a
individual
rental-
had the power of convincing the others to say no.
Okay, my other side of the question, if that's the case, can they go and then do a speed hump like they're saying,
Well,
it's
that's exactly,
cheaper?
yeah, we have other,
And-
there's other tools in the box, so if we fail to be able to put in a traffic circle, we look at doing, you know, multiple speed tables or raised intersections. There's a lot of other things that you
So
can
is that
do.
option on the table without having to
Those
get the
op-
four approval of the four
Those options,
residents?
you know, everything's on the table, it's just, like I said from the beginning, that the easiest thing for us to implement is a traffic circle, just because it's we're pre-approved by the county to do that. Everything else is still on the table, including the speed tables and speed humps and all that, but those just take a little more process to get, but there are approved.
If that would be the case, so let's say in this situation where this individual convinced the other three, can we, let's assume that we can go ahead and put a speed bump, would he be able, I mean, would we have to wait?
We still have to do go to the residents, but it would be like a whole block, not just.
Frank, refresh my memory, but I believe that my understanding is that consent agreement that we have with the county, also, as she said, that now we did not have to ask the four residents in the corners
Well,
that we could do it as arbitrarily.
Doesn't change the process.
I thought
That's
there
our
were,
process, we control that process. It's not the county asking for, it's us.
so we legislatively can change that, or we can just arbitrarily say, this is what our traffic study says, and this is what's best for the whole, and then we can just put the traffic circle there. I thought that,
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, yes, legislatively, we probably.
I thought that was part of the agreement with the county, that it gave us, no?
It's our resolution. We passed it years ago when we had the first traffic study.
Well, this was recent, this was not long ago.
I understand, but 2004 is when we passed the resolution adopting the same methodology that the county had at the time. It went from a block, then it got reduced to the 4 corners, and that's what we presently have today, the 4 corners. Majority, rules in favor, we take it. If it's a split vote, then we work with the residents.
With the
to get
balance
it
of the
positive.
street.
So yeah, those are our processes.
Question, just to confirm, you're going to do the study, and this is really for the purposes of getting grants to potentially fund some of these improvements. Partly then the commissioning, the manager, the public works director will work as far as capital improvement budgets to be able to fund this over the next decade. Is that where this is?
We'll go after grants, I mean, obviously,
like a whole-
provided that the mayor and the commissioners agree on prioritizing the areas based on what the study reveals. Then we have a grant writer, and we ourselves are very proactive, and we'll go after any money that is available, and then we'll try to use PTP money, whatever we can by law, use for that, and we would make a recommendation at the time to pursue that. That, obviously, for a small city, it is not an overnight proposition.
Yeah, it took us, 15 years to build all these guys.
Yes.
But we were able to do it mostly with grant money.
Is there any annual amount in the capital improvement budget, or it's all grants and all the PT, and all
Whatever
the...
grant dollars become available, if there, let's say, if there are projects that come out, notice of funding availabilities that come out from the county, and let's say we have a couple of blocks westbound on 66th Avenue that may qualify for CDBG dollars, we'll go after those dollars. If it's CBO dollars, it's CBO dollars. If it's FDOT, if these are roads that are connecting roads or collector roads, correct? That's what they're labeled. Then we could go after money. If the state rolls out programs that help us fund these projects, we're gonna go after each one of them. I mean, it all depends what the match requirement is in terms of what the city can and cannot do.
The state has annual programs for grant for funding, and to give you an idea, the last, we built 18 traffic circles, and I believe the last 10 of them, 10 or 11, I can't remember.
11.
11 of them. Were all done under one grant, so, we had the studies ready, the plans ready, everything was on the shelf. So as soon as this funding became available, we applied for a TAP grant with FDOT, and it was a competitive grant with all the other cities, and we were able to win that. And we actually got over $1 million to build the 10 circles and improve the lighting of the other circles.
And build a handicap access and everything, I mean, something nice.
I have to go, but real quickly before I go. What would it take for us to be able to get speed bumps in our streets? Forget about the traffic circle.
That would be part of our study.
Okay, you need speed bumps.
What drives the size of the traffic? What drives the size of the traffic?
The size is really driven by the right-of-way that we have, and it is a prototypical design for our right-of-way. Like the city pretty much has a very consistent right-of-way size throughout. So the circle is about the same size in all the.
Not in all the intersections.
There's some that are smaller that were built a long time ago. The earlier ones that we built were different, but yeah. And then you have the ones that look like sausages here and there.
If the city limits, if the city limits are involved, like for example on 22nd Street or we live at, there is a very small traffic circle on 64th Avenue and 22nd Street. Is that because the people across the street are Miami-Dade County, or is it because, why is the reason?
The size of the traffic circle also has to accommodate emergency vehicles, fire trucks, garbage trucks. So it's not just for vehicles. So it's the bigger trucks that have to get around. School buses have to be able to move.
Yeah, I don't remember in particular that one, why we did that one
It's
smaller.
because of the size.
there was an issue there with some of the constraints. For the
Because
most
of the
part,
size of the roads, or?
The road there is smaller, so the circle ends up being smaller to be able to maneuver buses and emergency
but
vehicles.
that is an exception. Like I said, pretty much 95% of the city, the right of way is the same size, the roads are more or less the same size. So yes, it is a factor of all our geometrical constraints there.
And what determines if it has a stop sign or not? Or is it just up in the air?
Usually, we started first with yield signs, and when the folks decided that they didn't want yield signs, then they petitioned the city commission to go to stop signs. We replaced them all with stop signs.
Who were those folks from Square Street? Was that residents? Was
Yeah,
that-
residents.
Residents that live on those corners.
Yeah, no, because I didn't get notified of that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's a stop sign, you really, it just is an emission thing, that people are stopping and just
Right.
generating a lot of emission.
Right.
So,
A yield is what is consistent
a
with.
yield is what is
That's what they were
consistent.
doing.
I have seen,
Can
I've
that be
seen one
changed?
situation, they take the yield.
Can that be
and
changed?
Take it the same.
It's a 50-50. You go half of the city wants stop signs, the other half wants yield signs. It's a non-winning battle.
Something that we gotta recognize,
On our corner.
something that we have to recognize, and you know me, when I have something to say, I say it. I moved here when I was a little girl, in 1971 with my parents. Most homes were 2-1s, and there was, if one vehicle per family. Today, and I'll tell you, case in point example, my next door neighbor, I don't want better neighbors in the world. They have 3 grown daughters, the husband, the wife, the mother-in-law, and there's a recreational vehicle. All of a sudden, what was a contained family, if you would, for the purpose of traffic, they had 2 vehicles. And it was the husband and the wife, and no one else had cars. As time progressed, the grandma had to have a car, so she had to pick up the kids in school. Well, the kids have all grown up. They're 3 daughters. They're in college. They live at home with mom and dad and grandma, and they each have cars. There is no parking on my street, and obviously our street is full. All of our streets are full of or similar situations like that. Families back in the day had 1 or 2 kids. People now are moving in with parents. They have aging parents. Unlike my mother, who doesn't want to come and live with me, but there's people that are moving in with their parents because they have either financial needs or they are the caregiver to the parents. All of a sudden, you have 3, 4 cars, 5 cars in any given household. And that is a reality, and that is taxing our roads. But these are people who live here. They're residents. So I think that we're going to find that cut-through traffic is going to be one of the main culprits here. I think that's going to be the big ticket item. And obviously the speed. Created by cut-through traffic. Because most of the ticket citations, Carolina de la Hoz has been here for close to 30 years, correct? Sergeant de la Hoz will probably testify to the fact that most traffic citations issued, and she has worked all shifts, are issued to people who live outside the city of West Miami. Am I wrong or am I right? These are people that are using our roads to get to other places.
And I'm an outsider, and you guys have a reputation of ticketing.
Yeah.
So us that live outside, we're very careful when we're in West Miami. So, you have the best of the best.
Well, let me mention
Make
something.
it work.
Bentley-
I'm good with that.
Bentley takes the cake. I went to high school in Miami Springs, and when I was in high school, there was we were terrified going over Medley. Medley, at that point, there was no way of getting any income but tickets. So we were still the same way. So, Medley, get ahead of you guys.
Hey, what about the 25 miles an hour, is that feasible? Because I think Coral Gables did it. Can that
I
immediately
believe
be
so.
implemented?
I believe so, if the traffic
Or we have to
study
wait for the study?
determines that there is a need for that 25 months.
So we'll still have to wait for that, the study.
I already asked it.
I brought that up and I thought I was gonna, years ago, and they shut me down. And I almost got fired. I almost got fired when I was out there. I would love to see residents from the house. I think it's, I brought it up already. If I may, what's that need to have a You would. Can I have your attention one moment, please? Okay, so, I just want you to know, I want everyone, I mean, some of you weren't here when I spoke first. I thank you. Your time is valuable. I know your evening time is valuable with the kids and homework and math, and you're out all day. So I know your evening time is valuable. So I thank you, my colleagues, thank you for taking the time to come. We, my colleagues and I are here. We heard you. We listened. We heard you. I'm telling you that as I stand here as a resident. I heard you. We heard you. We will closely monitor, the results of this. I thank you for being honest and open with us. Respectfully honest and open. You told us your concerns, your problems in a very respectful way. So I truly appreciate that. I'm sure I speak for my colleagues. A lot of the things you've talked about, we've been talking about for a while. For years. So we hear you. I can assure you we will be on top of it. I've learned since I've been sitting up there as a commissioner, vice mayor, now mayor, we can't make everybody happy all the time. Just like that circle that the residents didn't want, but everybody else did. So we do our best every single day to comply and make the majority of our residents happy. But there's times that we can't because of situations like that. So you have my word, and I'm sure I'm speaking for my colleagues that are here. And Commissioner Diaz-Padrón came in late, so I was not able to introduce him, but Commissioner Diaz-Padrón here as well. You have my word. You all agree. We heard you. We listened to you, and we will do our best to monitor and be on top of this and do the very best we can for you. You got my numbers. All our numbers are available.
Let me just ask one question. They're putting up these buildings. Is there a limit of how many they can put up? I mean,
Yes.
is there a stop, like
Yes.
5?
Yes. I'm going to yield to the city
Or is it
manager for
going
that.
to be surrounded by?
I'm going to yield to the city manager for that because they have the actual real answer. I would speculate, but yes, there is. That will be public works and city manager.
When we went through the comp plan, and I'll let Juan get into the nitty-gritty of the details, but when we went through the comp plan approval, our city was approved for modest density growth along the commercial corridors, and only 50% of the commercial corridor and/or the surrounding properties that they bundle to do these projects can be redeveloped. It doesn't mean they will be redeveloped, but they can be redeveloped. Juan, can you talk to us in terms of how much of a percentage, what is the percentage of development given those numbers?
Today, with today's buildings that are up, you're probably somewhere around 20%. The only biggest parcel left that's feasible to do anything is the trailer park. There's nothing that's going on there within any time soon. And the other parcels are just too expensive to assemble to be able to develop anything.
Between 20th and 18th, are they going to build on?
Citywide. This
This is citywide.
57th Avenue between 8th Street and 16th Street, along 8th Street on the south side, which is our side, between 57th and 67th, and 67th to Coral Way on the east side. That would be our jurisdiction.
So basically, if you can't assemble an acreage, it doesn't work.
So how many, what do you guys need?
So entre la 18, 18, 20th Street
buildings there now. If they were to demolish them tomorrow, that probably could work.
That would work.
In the future though?
Yes.
Is that gonna come up in the future? You can have more traffic coming in the future, that we have to have another scan to find out how we can deal with that.
I understand, but we're telling you what exists today.
Okay.
There's one concern you had, I know it's very small, but I want to let you know we've already addressed it. I think we'll have to again. Someone commented on the shared ride services stopping on 67 and picking up their fares and dropping them off. I've seen it. I almost rear-ended someone that did that once. So I went, I just talked to the PD, and Mr. Penna sent our code compliance officer to the building to notify them, but obviously we'll have to do it again.
We'll
So
do it again.
a lot of the things you've said, we've tried to be on top of, but it's probably something that we have to just continue recurring, because it's happening again.
Or that they have a designated
They
pickup and drop off.
And that's when our code compliance officer went to the buildings, notified them, they have to pull off 67 and drop off and pick up. So, Mr. Penna, can you have Martin go back and verify the buildings? So, yes, we tried, we will continue trying.
It goes back to the county has to make that sign. If he gets it, he takes it to the county has to make that sign that says, pick up area, blah, blah, blah.
No, not for those things.
Not for those, not for those signs?
It's only things that affect traffic flow. If we're gonna designate an area in our right of way to have Uber collection.
I think your idea is better. They also should have it in their contract,
Right, so,
knowing that they cannot.
Mr. Penna will have code compliance go back to the buildings and we will stay on top of it, so.
Yeah, we cannot make them include that in their contract, we can suggest it.
Can ask, yeah.
And it's
Because the
not,
building is up. Now, if it would have been a condition of their special use permit for planned development,
Well, not for the other one.
then we could have be a little bit more forceful. We can only ask them to be good neighbors.
and we will continue asking them to be good neighbors. We will.